think we got on, Okay, good evening, everybody. I'll call the meeting to order. Dana Henry is not here tonight, so we'll take his voting spot. Just a quick word about the agenda. We have one regular application, which is the Morash application for the non-conforming structure. Mr. Carr is here to present that. And we also are going to hopefully finalize the bylaws, the language for the solar bond language, and then Jaron is coming from the select board to talk a bit about data and technology and some of the issues that we talked about at the last meeting. So let's begin with the Morash application. I do want to say that tonight we have an application. Tonight's purpose is strictly to determine completeness of that application. We won't be discussing the application in terms of its merits and its conformance with the ordinance. We may get into that a little bit as you present, but the principal purpose is strictly just to determine if the application is complete and procedurally if we can proceed if it is complete. With that, if you would like to come up and give us a summary of the application. We've talked about it obviously a little bit previously, but at that point we didn't have an application per se in front of us, which we now do. And so if you could describe it for us, highlight the major pieces.
First of all, thank you guys. Being the only person on the agenda, I appreciate you at least having the meeting for us to try to move the process forward. So thank you guys for coming out tonight. Last meeting we were here, and there was some questions regarding, the exact calculations for square footage. I believe if there's any, I'm not sure if any board members have questions on that, but I think we have a pretty detailed list there of how the calculations were calculated for the existing and then for the...
Yeah, we did get some supplemental numbers.
Yeah, so hopefully that makes sense to everybody, that works there. There were a couple other small modifications in looking at the easements for the utilities. It was recommended that we don't try to go into those easements, so we did, move it out. You can see that on the plan, and I think that's about it. Everything else is pretty much kind of what you saw in the initial packet, but we discussed it briefly at the last meeting, and
Well, initially, when you had come before us, there really wasn't a proposal on the table. It was kind of a series of options, as I recall that discussion.
Yeah.
So it would be helpful if you could briefly describe the proposal that we have in the current application.
Okay, yeah.
And just the...
Yeah, and that wasn't to confuse anybody or anything. Basically the Morashes have been coming up here since 1988. They purchased the current property on Mayor Road in 1999. They're kind of getting to that age in life where, time to kind of figure out what we're doing and I guess retire. And Scott spends probably 9 months a year up here, and Dawn's a school teacher looking to kind of hang out with him a little bit more. So that's kind of the strategy of what they're trying to achieve. They currently have a roughly 2,000 square foot house or whatever it is on that site. To kind of make that into a bit more of a year-round place. I mean, you've done a lot of renovations. It's a lot of work, costs a lot of money. It's a pretty major investment for them to make. So this is kind of a moment to sort of say, hey, time out, let's look at what are the options. And I think, the options that we're talking about here, one is keep what they've got, fix it up. It's quite an investment, a lot of work, but can be done. Ideally, let's look at some other options and what are they? And so I think what you have here in front of you is what I think is the best option for that property. to try to achieve their goals and still be as compliant as possible. With that said, there is, in doing what they're doing here, there is nothing that they're doing makes, is proposing anything that is more non-compliant. We're not increasing the height, we're not increasing the number of bedrooms, we're not increasing the square footage, we're not creating impervious. There is nothing in this that creates something that is more non-conforming. I think that's pretty an important thing. What they're looking at doing and moving basically the same house back is a 200% improvement in conformancy from 14 feet to 42 feet back.
Wait just a minute. What I saw in the application was not moving the existing house back. It's a new structure, correct?
Basically the same 3-bedroom, yeah, it's a new structure.
Okay.
Yeah. And
What?
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Yep.
You said it's not any bigger. In the description of the house to be built, are there no decks?
no, there's no decks.
And what is there a basement or
No,
foundation?
it's just probably it'll be a 4 to 6 foot crawl space, that's there. So it wouldn't be habitable space in the basement. There's no walkout basement, there's nothing like that. Building codes do need a foundation of some type, so it'll be, what meets building codes.
Trigger 6 feet?
Yeah.
It can't be over 6 feet.
Yeah, I mean, if it's more than 6 feet, then that becomes part of your square footage.
Right, so, yep, and that's, that's there. There's some details on that, but I haven't really spent a lot of time and resources on that part of it. The other part for this site to, on a 30,000 square foot view of it, it's a triangular lot, as you can see. It's actually trapezoidal, but in the back it goes up, the area that's shown in green on the plan that was submitted, this is a sloped area with, mature trees that are there. And, I'm a big believer in trying to not do as minimal cutting as you possibly can, and especially in your 250-foot critical environmental zone. I think that is a critical thing. I told you last time I come from an area that's on a lake, and it happens to be the cleanest lake in America for a good reason, and that's part of it. So anytime that I can work on a project where I can leave as many trees as possible, that's great. Moving it back to that 42-foot line isn't perfect, but it's a lot better than being at the 14-foot mark. 14 feet may sound like a lot, but it is not a lot.
It doesn't sound like a lot.
It doesn't, I agree with you. It's not, so really, there's already an area directly behind there that's cleared. So to accommodate the septic, there'll be a few trees that are removed. But to be honest, very little site work on that site to accomplish this, which I think is an important goal. The other thing is, put in a current, new, up-to-date septic system that meets the, main codes, and also adding stormwater to the existing driveway, so they wouldn't need to put in a new driveway, use the existing driveway. It also avoids putting a driveway cut on a pretty steep road. Chip, I believe you've been up there in the winter. You better have 4-wheel drive or you're not getting out. The more ashes, also when they redo that road or they redo this area, one of the goals, that road that is there coming down, it's basically a straight shot, straight down towards the lake. One of the goals is to improve that, which is kind of outside of the site, but there's going to be a bunch of stormwater improvements along with this. The road itself, it's maybe adding check dams and some water bars, to that. And again, that's not something that's required under your code, but it's certainly something that helps. But I think the key is they're really, in front of the board, it's really a choice of, do they stick with a small, cottage 14 feet from the lake, or do they have a small cottage that's 42 feet from the lake with a new septic, stormwater, buffer zones, energy compliant, stuff. There's a lot of advantages to this. There are advantages to being 14 feet from the water. So I think there is some some compromises here. And I do believe, we look at greatest extent practical, as we discussed at the last meeting, kind of, there's some interpretation that can happen there, but I think when we do look at this particular site, there is, it's even spelled out, things like easements, things like foundations. There are some reasons to move this house. And I do think it is something that can be beneficial to everybody and still be compliant, with that test. Given the power easements that are there, things like that, could you move power lines? Yeah, you could. Can I move a mountain? Sure I could. I can do a lot of things. It's really hard to replace old growth forests within 100 feet of a lake. That's not something that's easy to do. And it's something we're really trying to avoid. And I think that comes under the greatest extent practical type and amount of vegetation to be removed. These are important considerations to look at.
I do want to stress that, that is a principal finding that the board needs to make.
Yes, I agree.
Whenever there is a reconstruction or a relocation of a non-conforming structure, one of the primary things is that we need to determine that the new location meets all the setbacks to the greatest practical extent. That's what that is about.
Yep.
And it's an important determination for any non-conforming structure. So we will be talking about that a lot because it is principal to the review that we do.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to stress that.
No, and it's certainly, it's in there for a reason, and it's kind of a paramount cornerstone of your code. One suggestion I might have, from my own experience, and I'm not sure how the board feels about it, but a site visit is a lot different than looking at this stuff. I don't know if the board does that.
Well, we're going to have a site visit.
Oh, okay, good.
If the application's found to be sufficiently complete, then one of the next steps would be to schedule a site visit.
And we will need to talk about the current winter conditions because that suggests to me that we're going to need to push it to some point in the future where there's a bit less snow, so we can see what's happening.
Ask questions about completeness.
Yeah,
fire away.
I
My narrative is finished. I will be.
That you wanted to highlight?
No,
I just don't know about in the application.
I don't think so. But just to give you some narrative of why we're here and kind of. And again, I think to be honest, they can fix up what they have. It's just a lot of money to do that. Is that really a good investment? Is that really the right thing to do here? Or maybe we could figure out something better. It's really that.
Well, what we have in front of us is the proposal that was made in the application package. So that's what we will be considering. And as we move through this process, if for whatever reason they might change their mind and want to do something else, that's entirely within their control. But we will be reviewing this package that we have in front of us at this time. So Jack, you have a question about completeness?
A few questions. I'm a little confused by the site plan. And can you tell me how many feet it is from the water to the road, that road? Because on the application it talks about 118 feet, but when I look at the site plan it looks different than that. The deed seems to say it's more than that.
I don't have my ruler with me. I don't know if anybody has a ruler to scale that. I don't know exactly what that road distance is. I'm not sure, is it, there's no movement where, again, low impact development, try not to move roads, move driveways, we're really trying to.
I just want to know if there's water to the road.
Yeah, it's 117 on the eastern boundary.
Which is the eastern boundary.
The one towards the Huey Family Trust.
This one over here.
That's this right there. That distance shows up to 117.
Yes, I'm going to guess it's 130 and increasing.
I would say, yeah, the driveway option is closer.
And the other property line, which would be perpendicular to the water's edge, that's 230 feet, so. But what happens at that bottom end of it is it basically kind of, there really isn't any stormwater management on that road at all. So, it kind of predates that.
Another thing I'm confused about is in the application, and it's mentioned several times, it talks about, like in number 15 of the application, which deals with stormwater management. It says that it refers to it refers us to books in the town office, and I didn't know whether those were books being part of the application or whether the books are made by Maine Best Management Practices, published by DEP.
What page is that, John?
Well, number 15.
Number 15.
On page 11 of 11 in the application?
Is on
Or are we,
page 15.
let me just give me a minute here, just trying to find it. Is that the describe and illustrate in a separate paper how you intend to control, manage additional stormwater? Is that question?
Yeah.
Yep. What they're referring to there is that the road itself is, it's in the town records as being an existing road. Both a road of, right and a road of use.
Jack, I think what they're talking about, it references the stormwater management best practices, and it says which is available for reference at the town office. So I think they're talking about the stormwater guideline book.
So it's not, so the only stormwater management part of this application is in the plain pages that we got online.
I can jump in here. Basically, your code is what we would be building the stormwater to.
So Jack, it does say, see attached site plan and erosion annotations. So it sounds like there is
In other words, this site
some of
currently,
that on
There's
there.
a stormwater basin depicted on the site plan
Yeah.
here, and then there's also these retention areas. And that's there.
currently, this site has there's no stormwater provisions at all in this. The town code does have that, and that's certainly something that, this site will substantially benefit from that. One, because of proximity to
I broke it off. I didn't take a bite.
We
John?
hear you, John.
Yes?
Mr. Mitchell.
I didn't know if you thought you were muted. If you did, you're not.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Never mind.
The other thing to consider here, and part of what we're trying to do, and I guess the advantage of what's being proposed, you'll notice on the plan there's a FEMA flood limit, and one of the things that we're, your town code does, there is incentives and encouragement to kind of move out of those zones. I think that's something that we can accomplish with this also, which, long-term is a good thing for everybody. So certainly something that we're looking at, and, with what the town adopted, I believe it was 2011, the floodplain management ordinances. Hey, if we can, I think there's a need to consider that. And again, one more advantage to what this plan does for everybody.
Jack, there are also some references to mulch and berms and so forth on plans. What's that?
On AO2,
Yeah.
there's the mulch and there's also the retention ponds.
I I don't know, do you remember, Chip, if there are any other controls proposed on other sheets, or does it just show up on the AO2?
As it says in the dialogue, it's referring to AO2. They have the retention pond on the one side, and they got temporary ones. So that's about it. Those are the annotations, and that's the plan.
You'll notice along the driveway, the existing driveway, currently there's no stormwater there at all. There's no stormwater for the existing house, and to be honest with you, 14 feet in front of it, it's hard to do much there. But trying to create, again, and bring that up to your current code specs for your stormwater, and both for the driveway, the house, the lot itself, and to be honest, the road that comes down there that is a pretty steep, straight shot. It's got ditches on it, but it's an annual event whenever it rains in the spring, especially, for that road to kind of get pretty ugly, and especially the ditches that have no check dams or any stormwater on that road at all coming down along the side of their property. And it's a pretty extensive length of hill there that has nothing on it at all. So again, this was all built, back in 1960, whatever, and stormwater wasn't a word back then, so.
So is the gist of the plan is to go from 1,898 feet to 1,857 feet and move the house back from 14 feet within the water line to 42? Is that?
You summed it up better than I could have.
That is
That's
basically
basically the plan. I mean, the
Yep.
question is whether or not it's complete or not.
right.
Yep.
It looks, I mean, not my, as much as my opinion matters to anybody else, it looks complete to me. And then the other question I have is, and this is just a curiosity question, it has
Yeah.
nothing to do with whether or not, to be completely honest. Why 42 feet? I mean, why not just keep it where it is? Like, what's the magic behind 42?
And as this board knows, that the Morashes have looked at a lot of different things. And I think at the end, they could keep what they have. To fix that up, it's a substantial investment. And
Yeah, they could request to keep it within 14 feet. That's one of the options, right?
Yep, it is. Yep, they
But
could.
then they're saying 42 feet. Is the 42 feet their estimation of greatest practical extent? Like, hey, I think this is as far back as we could put it.
It's sort of, they could keep what they have, keep the current foundation, keep the current walls, roof, whatever, and go in and fix it up. And a lot of camps that I've seen around the area, not just this town, they do that. You know what I mean? And it's the same camp from 1960.
That's an option, like just renovate it.
Just renovate. A lot
Or
of people.
move or tear it down.
Yes.
And if they tear it down, they're either gonna have to build it within 14 feet or 100 feet or somewhere in between.
Actually, they couldn't build it within 14 feet, a new one, if they
Okay.
demolished, because they would still have to meet the greatest practical extent standard.
Well, we don't know that wouldn't meet it because we haven't done well, actually, there's a history that.
There is history,
Okay,
and we've made some findings about earlier proposals.
And again, could I submit a plan that says 14 feet, here's what we're doing? Sure. I don't know that that meets the intent of the code. So when we looked at where are locations on this lot with the minimal impact, and when we consider, just like that greatest extent practical, how much clearing, easements, slopes, and you start going down that test.
The proposal's 42 feet.
Right, is to
Okay.
put it at this 42 feet for a couple of reasons. One, it moves it out of the floodplain, which I think is important.
Okay.
It also does not require, moving an easement for a power line.
On
It's-
that point, could I ask you, the earlier proposals that the Morashes made and we ruled on,
Yep.
put the house squarely on the easement.
Right, yep.
And why is it an issue now and it wasn't then? I guess that's my question.
No, fair, it's a great question. I, just for the board's knowledge, had nothing to do with the previous application at all. So just, clean slate here. I've done a fair amount of development. I've dealt with, in our area, it's National Grid. When you talk about utility easements and moving them and the surveying and the deed filings and everything that goes on with that alone is substantial, but then when you actually have to pay to move the power line that services that whole side of that area of the lake, that is substantial. And that's not quick, cheap, easy to do or anything.
Yeah.
I speak from experience on that, having dealt with utilities and their easements. It is not an easy task. So when I looked at this and was asked, John, what do you think? What can we do here to meet this code? You know, to me, if I can leave the trees and I can leave the utility poles and I can leave everything the way it is and not disturb the whole site, that's important. When we do go to move a utility line, you know, let's be honest, where on that site am I going to move it to that doesn't require clearing and substantial clearing? That's not something you want to do. So if you look at this site, if I move that cleared area, that pole or the utility easement back, it's going to require substantial clearing. I didn't submit the original application. I would not have proposed that. Just for, you know.
But that's gonna be determined at a site visit, right? Like.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, you know, we're not going to debate the merits of location at this point.
Yeah, I was
And
just
we do
curious
need
about
to see.
the magic of 42. And again, it was just a curiosity question, it's not gonna affect whether or not.
No, it really, if you notice, the one rear corner is kind of up against that utility easement. It was recommended that, you know, if possible, don't go into the easement.
Yeah.
That's a key thing.
Recommended by whom?
With the utility company. And, you know, counsel for the Morash is just the complexities of the easements. Personally, for me, when I look at it, I'm always looking at options. You know, what are our options here? Where could we put that utility line that wouldn't have a negative impact on the site? Again, if I move that back 50 feet, I'm going to be clearing, you know, basically a good, you know, 30+ foot swath of trees right through there. You know, is that what I'm trying to do here? No, I'm trying to keep that site, you know, as original and as it is as possible, which I think it's good development. That's why.
Do they have construction timelines? Is there a date when they want to break ground or any of that stuff? Or?
You know, I think they understand at this point, having been playing around with this for a while, this isn't a quick, easy process. I think Mrs. Morash does kind of want to retire and settle in a little bit, and to be honest, Scott likes being up here 9 months of the year roughly, and you know, I think they could kind of figure that out.
Well, I asked because even if this does get approved tonight, and we're talking about a second meeting after that, in a site visit, I don't recall reading anything in the land use ordinance where we don't do site visits in the winter. Is that a restriction? Is there?
It's snow.
I think it's a practical restriction. I mean, I think it's going to be.
Yeah, but is it in the land use ordinance, or is
No,
there?
we have the option of doing a site visit, it's our discretion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Snow's gonna be gone in a month anyways.
You're an optimist.
Well,
I'm hoping we have a beautiful sunny day.
It depends on what their timeline is too. I don't want to.
Yeah, you know, again, I think I understand the, you know, the situation. Chip's been on that road. It's just straight downhill.
Okay.
If
And
it's-
I really think we need the ability to see the site too.
I agree.
With 3 feet of snow on it, I think it's going to be difficult to really get a feel for what it looks like.
Yeah, we can do. Yeah, we can make that work. You know, the one thing I will say is, you know, in other words, in the summer when there's a lot of understory growth, it's a little harder to see the topography. So, you know, to try to do it, you know, when it's safe to get down there, but you don't have a lot of understory. And again, I think the more, you know, the goal here is for you guys too. Let's keep the process going. And I know you get paid big money to come out here on a Tuesday night in the winter, so.
I want to get back and see if there are any other questions concerning completeness. Jack, you had another one?
I had a question for you, Paul. Number 5, it says, what financial resources will you prepare the project? And the answer is financing to obtain post-board approval. Do we normally get a letter from the bank saying that this project is expected to cost X and that they have to be ready to finance it? Do we need something like that, or do we just, is this answer sufficient that financing to be obtained post-board approval?
I can fill you in a little bit.
Well, hold on just a minute. If,
example?
I mean, we would often accept, I mean, just for an individual, like a residence or something of that sort. I know that we've had applications that say, you know, we're using personal funds or something of that sort, and we accept that. It's not something we would accept on commercial development, but I think we are inclined to provide a little more latitude when it's a private residential proposal.
Well, I know for the town, we approved that development on the promise that they would eventually raise the money. We don't have it, so.
I mean, both the Morashes
It's not
are employed, their two daughters are done with college, so if anybody's put $2 through college, when you're done with that, you feel rich, so. Dawn's father also, when he passed away, left some money for Scott and Dawn to help with something.
I don't think we need to even ask that.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
That's personal.
I have a,
Just a minute, Peter. Don had a question.
Yeah, in looking at the proposed site plan, it shows the area between the proposed new house and the lake. You've got a temporary silt berm and a temporary mulch berm shown in there, which is part of your stormwater erosion control plan. But what I don't see is what his intent, or their intent rather, is to deal with the site where the house, where the existing house is today. That area will be vacated.
Yes.
Do they have any thoughts about what they want?
You know, it's pretty, you know, the idea there is it's, you know, it's a flatter grassy area. They're not putting septic or anything there, but just basically, you know, a grassy activity area kind of thing. So, you know, the goal is really to kind of direct the stormwater to the one side as much as possible. And any stormwater that's coming off the other side there, you'll notice that there's a stormwater basin that kind of extends forward there. You know, in a final grading plan, you know, there really is not a lot of slope there, but, you know, to kind of keep that area as flat and grassy. Not really envisioning a lot of impervious space there, but more as an activity area. I mean, to be honest, like this time of year, you know, maybe they pull a snowmobile up there, but, you know, in the summer, maybe it's a place to play cornhole, or, you know, those kinds of activities, but no construction or anything within that area. Obviously, the goal would be to remove the existing house and really bring that back to what's naturally, you know, there, which would be, you know, kind of grass and some landscaping and things like that, but kind of, you know, just clean up that front part of it. There are, you know, some older trees that are in that area that have some pretty extensive, you know, root, you know, systems that are really nice trees to have on the site. So really not try to tear that up and do any major grading or swimming pools or anything crazy like that. Just try to keep it as natural as we could.
So, I mean, we would have the option, obviously, requiring some kind of landscaping or something like that, as we frequently do. So.
Yeah, and again, we've looked at that area. I mean, the Morashes are open to, you know, pretty much anything that's reasonable, and but really, you know, try to keep it a grassy area that's, you know, usable for stuff they make. They currently have a little fire pit to one side, you know, that kind of stuff. So.
Okay, Peter, you had a question.
just for my own clarification, so I see that it's stated in here that the total existing floor area of the existing house is 1898.8 square feet.
Your eyesight's better than mine.
Well, that's the big
okay.
press, the big print.
Yeah.
It's the bottom of this. This page isn't numbered, so I can't tell you. But it's the bottom of that first.
I'm familiar with that one. Yep.
Sure. 1898.8. Well, earlier, though, in the smaller print, it talks about the proposed house
Yep.
being 1825.1. Is that correct? Because Dana had mentioned 1857. Maybe that's somewhere else in the
Yep.
I was going
1857.1.
off totals.
Yep. And I believe this.
Well, this was living space.
Yep.
Yeah, Peter, I think it's the difference between the interior living space and some kind of porch or stairs or something
Yeah.
on the exterior that is added to it.
It was
But it-
1898 versus 1857.
Yeah.
Okay, where's the 1857?
It's on there's the plot plan there, so you see the house.
Okay,
Right there.
You should probably help you.
Page
Here you
14,
can zoom
14,
in.
I think it's on page 15.
Next page.
And again, it's not a major reduction in size, but you know, it's 40 square feet.
See, the difference
Yeah.
is the exterior stairs.
yeah,
And that point actually is important for planning board members, because when we were first talking about this, we were talking about the proposed structure being larger than the existing. And in that case, the expansion provisions in the LUO would kick in. But what we have in front of us now is something that is slightly smaller.
right, I just
So
wanted to be
it's
sure
not
that's what it
expansion.
is, that's what's proposed.
Yep.
By the way, this is trivial, Paula, but maybe, does the original document have a signature? Or the ones we received that don't have a signature for the applicant on page 3 of 11?
Should have.
Chip, I have the power of attorney, so if we need to quickly go around and And Paul, you're talking about when you talk about the greater square footage, you're talking about what was submitted in 2020 or whatever, 2021, that application, or?
Well, I'm talking about that one, but I'm also talking
Okay.
about something that we saw earlier last year as well.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, the intent of this is to not be larger and to, again, to not be non-conforming in any way. That's a key thing.
So, is it unsigned?
No,
It's
it's,
signed,
there's
okay.
a,
Okay.
I had a question.
Jack?
In 7B, it says, are you aware that any wetland alteration requires additional permitting by a state or federal level? And the answer is yes. And this will be investigated post-planning board approval. So are there wetlands that, I couldn't tell.
And, excuse me, what number was that, 7?
7B, B as in boy.
Yep.
Are you aware that any wetland alteration requires additional permitting? Yes.
Chip, was there a conversation about any wetlands? I don't remember a wetland discussion previously. Do you recall anything like that?
No,
I think the answer should be, the response should be reversed. You know, if there are any wetlands, there are no alterations to wetlands on this project. But if there are, we would investigate them, you know.
Well, if there are, we need to know about them now.
Yes, but there are none.
Before
There
the
are-
development happens.
but if you read the question, it says, are you aware that any wetland alteration requires a permit? That's the question about, are you aware that it needs a permit? You say yes.
Yes, and this will be investigated post-planning board approval, so
Yeah.
I'm not
I
quite sure.
think, yeah, my interpretation of that is we're aware that the state and federal government has wetland regulations, and probably the town does too, if,
But you're not aware of any wetlands on the site?
not that I'm aware of any on the site, if it's determined, I don't know, next spring or something, okay, well, we know these laws exist, and, if we do come into something, we'll, and again, what we're,
Site inspection
Yeah.
yeah,
previously, and there were no wetlands that were
Yeah.
observed.
yeah.
All right, planning board members, other questions concerning completeness?
I just have one more question on 14. There's a diagram behind the house. It leads into the leach field? Is that like a retaining wall or something like that?
I'm sorry,
I'm sorry, it's
No,
it's on sketch map plan A02.
okay,
It's the one that shows the new structure 42 feet back.
yep.
And then there's a line that goes along on the plan that goes up to the leach field. Is that a retaining wall or?
No, that is the lateral that feeds the septic tank and then goes to the proposed leach field.
No, like to the back of that, you've got like circles that are connected to one another?
Oh, that is an existing stone wall that's
Oh,
there.
okay.
Yep.
Because I didn't see it on the other plan, I thought it was in
Yeah, just trying to give you some idea of what's there.
it. Okay.
And to be honest, if the utility easement wasn't there, that would be a good spot to move that house back. But again, you start getting into all the complexities. At some point, it just becomes impractical to keep, changing and trying to get over all the hurdles. Leave the house where it is and fix it up. But this is the time, before that big investment's made, this is kind of a once in a 50-year event. If they're gonna renovate this house, hey, let's look at the other options first. Let's take a minute to do
And I
that.
assume that you've done that, and this is
Yes.
the option that you're bringing forward to us.
Yes, this is
correct?
what I think is the best,
Okay.
most compliant, it's a 200% increase in the setback with no negative anything.
Well, okay, and we'll determine that later.
Yep. You guys have a test to take.
Anything else from planning board members concerning completeness?
I had a question maybe for Don. The stormwater management, it says it'll be permanent, but are there maintenance requirements for what they propose for stormwater management?
Well, they show a retention area and a basin, which would just need to be kept cleaned out. I mean, if it's silted in or anything, they need to clean it out. There is, actually on the basin, it's not clear to me where that, typically you have a spillway, and so during a storm event, you have a basin that fills, where does the water go?
Yeah. And I think that's, at some point to get some pretty, phosphorus loading and, some pretty aggressive, stormwater calculations. That's going to be part of our subsequent meetings, I think, and to submit that. And the Morash is, their goal is, those two daughters I was talking about, is they'll be around here for a while. I mean, if the town wants, or this board wants some maintenance agreement or something like that, I mean, that's very
Yeah, we may
reasonable.
require, if we got to the point where we approve this, we
Yeah.
frequently condition
Absolutely.
our approvals with things like ongoing maintenance, and that could be something that happened here,
Right.
in theory.
Yeah.
So,
Isn't that a provision for a Cottonseed watershed district to review it?
yeah, we likely, would do that as well. Yeah. Well, I think it might be, also one of those things that when there's a little less snow, we might do that as well. So, anything else in terms of completeness, anyone? And if not, I think we are ready for a motion, which I think should include a tabling until the snow is at a point where we're going to be able to see the property and do a site visit. So I would take a motion at this point.
Could I just make one, right?
We
No,
need to
no, I
finish this
understand.
first, and then I'll come.
Madam Chair, I have no problem.
So,
I'll make a motion to accept the Morash camp proposal as complete with a site visit to follow at a time when the weather permits or the conditions permit.
is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much.
No, thank you, guys.
You had another comment you wanted to make?
No, I was going to say, there is a lot of soil data and stuff that we can give the board, again, depending on, if the ground's still frozen, but we can get down there and look at stuff, to try to keep things moving. Not that I mind coming here in the winter, my friends took me out snowmobiling and had a great time. But coming in the summer is a lot more fun, but there is a lot of data there if you guys wanted to get any of that.
Yeah,
if you need it.
I think probably, the site visit is going to be especially useful for us.
I agree.
We'll talk about the timing of it, and Chip can get in touch with you.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys for coming out tonight for just one
All right, thank you
application.
very
So,
much.
take care, thank you.
Thank you.
And Chip, Justin will be in touch with us. So,
Okay.
take care. Thank you, guys.
so Jaren has very kindly offered to come and talk with us tonight. Jaren, there are a couple of things that I'd like to get done quickly before we get
Go
into
right
this
ahead.
discussion.
Absolutely.
if
I'm here
that's
at your
okay
pleasure.
with you. And for planning board members, we have the bylaws. I had sent out a redraft with the few changes that we had talked about at the last meeting. Hopefully you had a chance to look at that. If you didn't, I can go through those quickly if you want. Okay, and otherwise, Peter, I know you had a couple of additional things you wanted to mention.
Yeah, I don't have any substantive, what I regard substantive suggestions, but I saw a few things. Under 3A, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth line down, I think that sentence would make a lot more sense if it were shorter and started with the words, a member, just say a member appointed to fill a vacancy resulting from the departure of a prior member serves for the remainder of that member's term.
Okay.
So in other words, take out those first few words,
Mhm.
because right now it says the term of a member, well, no, well, anyway.
Okay, I get it.
The last, on 3B, which is the last line on my copy, on the first page of my copy, chair should be capitalized, it's capitalized elsewhere. Actually, there are two places, I'm sorry. Well, chair there,
Oh, where are you looking? Here?
3B,
Three.
3B second line, the word
Oh,
chair.
okay, okay, I see.
And actually, right above that, 3A last line, town clerk. I think we would run capitalize the clerk.
Okay.
Never want to shortchange the clerks. Let's see. Oh, yeah. This is the most, 5D, second line. The vice chair shall assume the duties of the chair when the chair is absent, unavailable, or has been disqualified. Or I think we might want to add, or has recused themselves from participating. To cover every situation.
Okay.
And then one more. Oh, yeah. 6B, 6D. I just was unclear. We know what a tie vote is. We know a tie vote is a rejection. But what does it mean to say a tie vote or favorable vote by fewer than the requisite majority? It can't be a favorable vote if it's a favorable vote by fewer than the required majority. I guess favorable is the problem. I have a problem with, because we have a quorum requirement of 4. Therefore, you need a vote of, if you had 4 people voting, you need 3 votes. But that would be a favorable vote by less than a majority, so I don't think that's what you mean. So I would take out the word favorable, but anyway.
So just address the tie vote.
Clearly, a
Correct.
tie vote's a rejection.
Tie or a minority vote.
Yeah.
What's the minority that you're talking about?
Well, it's, you're talking about a rejection of the motion under consideration. So obviously a majority vote would pass, but a minority vote on it would be a rejection of the motion. But they probably have a better way to say that.
Well, if it just said, yeah, a tie vote or a vote by fewer members than the required majority, which is the.
That's better.
Yeah.
And that's what it says, so the only offending word is favorable.
Yeah, in my mind.
Okay.
Those are my comments.
Okay. All right, anyone else have anything more on this, on the bylaws? And if not, I would suggest that we should vote that we concur as a board with the language in the bylaws and agree to send this along to Eric, who will share it with the select board for any comment in that area. So I would take a motion to that effect.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
And that motion is with the proposed changes here.
As amended,
As
correct?
amended.
Discussion? All those in favor? John? John?
Aye.
Okay, great. And then the other thing is the solar bond language. And I was hoping that Henry was going to send out a clean version to everyone, but that didn't happen. I know that he was traveling last week. But in any event, there were, I have my notes, and there were only 2 changes that were suggested. And those were, there's a sentence in the first paragraph discussing construction bond that says the amount of the financial security shall be established by the Readfield Planning Board. And the suggestion, I think Jack, you made the suggestion, that we add with respect to each project. So, on a project-by-project basis rather than, and be specific about that. So rather than just the amount of financial security shall be established by the board, say something to the effect that it's, I think the language that was put out was with respect to each project, or we could say on a project-by-project basis. And then the other suggestion had been in the last complete sentence of that first paragraph. It says to ensure the faithful completion of the project in accordance with the approved site plan, and the suggestion was to say with the approved application, including the site plan. And I think you made that suggestion as well. So those are the only 2 changes to what we had discussed last time that I had in my notes. So on this one, if there's anything else that anyone has, let's talk about that now. Otherwise, I would take a motion to concur on the language of this proposed change to the solar ordinance and vote on that and vote to post it for public hearing.
So we would have the public hearing and then as a result of that, we recommend it to the select board?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, typically we would hold a public hearing here as part of our regular process. And once we do that, the final version would be sent to the select board, and then typically they hold hearings on warrant articles, so there's another bite at the apple through that process.
So I'll move that we approve the ordinance changes as amended and send it up for a public hearing.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second, discussion. Actually, as amended also.
Yes, okay.
Oh, okay. No discussion, all those in favor? John?
Aye.
Okay. potentially, we could hold a hearing on this language at the next meeting if I'm not remembering now, the notice period isn't going to work, is it? We'd have to do it the meeting after. Okay. All right, well, we can talk about that. Okay.
Chair, Director Chair.
Yeah, bring the chair up. So, we have had some conversation at a couple of meetings about planning board applications and data, information, our access to it and our ability to access it online. And there were a number of different thoughts about that, but I think what we're looking to do in general is to try to ensure that applications, for instance, are accessible more easily than they are currently. Right now, we're in a position where we have to look at a number of locations on the website in order to gather all the application pieces. And there isn't a place, I think ideally, what we had been talking about was that we'd be able to go to a single location and find everything in one spot. And that certainly isn't the case now, and I don't know if it's something that is possible in the near future. But I think that we're looking to consolidate as much as possible. And the real issue is easy access to information, not only for us, but for people on the outside who might be looking for it. And others, please speak up. But there had been a number of thoughts about that, and I know that Eric had mentioned at one point to me that he thought that Google Workspace would be helpful in that regard, and there might be a couple of different ways to access information that we're finding difficulty with currently once we're up and running better with that system. But you were suggested as a person who is knowledgeable and helpful, and you certainly know the town system, and so we were just hoping to have a general conversation with you about what we have currently, how it might be improved potentially, and what might be available to us presently or at some point in the immediate future.
Okay, sure. I am not as knowledgeable as I probably should be on your current process and how you have to go to multiple different places to look at things. I should familiarize myself with that, certainly. Hopefully that will go away. I do think Eric is right in the short term. Workspace could be used to try to consolidate, as you mentioned, a lot of the access for the board and for the public. And everyone on the board now has a town email address, correct? Right, so you guys can do everything internally through that. May want some training for it, certainly, but that would eliminate a lot of the headaches I think you're talking about. And then long term, we would potentially be looking at a new vendor for a new website, would be my thoughts on that, and that probably would be years away.
So I think one of the issues that we're looking at currently is we have an application come before us tonight. In order to see everything that has happened with that application and to have access to all the documents and the forms that go with it, it likely will be necessary to look at several different meetings. Currently, it's
So
it's on the
everything
website
is
by
date.
by agenda date.
Okay, so it's similar to the select board package where we get a packet and you
Yes.
actually go through the entire packet to find the specific
Right,
speakers
right.
that you were looking for. I think there probably could be a short-term solution to making that easier for a particular project. So you could just open a folder effectively and then have all the information in that. I think that's something that would be accomplishable in the short term.
I think one of the other challenges, if you have a resident like the one that just came before us and they're thinking about doing something, They don't have any way, unless they go through a bunch of paper files, nothing to check, but where have these similar requests been made before? What was the outcome of it? What were the challenges? And how can I be better prepared? So I don't see a way for residents to research.
So you're looking for historical planning board data?
It'd be nice if we digitized it, like the entire application process as well as the storage of the material and made it searchable so that people could be more self-service, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, even if there's a way to do keywords like variance, shoreline zoning, nonconformity, so people could look and see how requests for variance have been treated in the past, or non. Right now, as you know, right now, because we're based on we go meeting to meeting. When you have a multi-stage or an elongated proposal or application, it'd be hard for us to keep track of what happened, let alone the public. So I would assume that at the very least we could have a docketing system so that everything that is filed in connection with a particular application or submitted in particular with the application would be under the same docket, and one could go to that docket and see, in the future, that is.
I think short-term for new applications, once a process is set up, that might be a realistical option.
I mean, Angelica's using, there's a numbering system currently, but
So similar to the select board where we have
Right.
the agenda item numbers.
Right.
I've started doing that in like the last year or so.
Okay.
And then I was thinking if we just posted like, so when we do that with select board, we also keep a log in the office.
Yep.
So I can open up the log and I can search a term. If like, let's say we're looking at the policy that you guys worked on a year and a half ago, I can just search that term and I can find the meeting date. And then I go from there and then I can go into the minutes or whatever. So I basically made the same thing for the planning board. I have only been doing the numbering for applicants. I'm not sure if I should start adding numbers for like discussions and minutes and stuff like the select board does. But I do have that similar document, I don't have it posted. And I'm
Right,
not
that's
sure if you want
internal.
to come in and have a look at
Gotcha.
it and see if maybe there would be a better way to,
Structure it.
yeah, and figure out like what information really needs to be there, because I might have more information on there for our use than what everybody
Right,
needs,
yeah, there may
you
not
know?
be.
But it'd be something I would just have to update with each meeting, you know, because it would be a single document that would be posted. I would have to update that and, you know, refresh essentially when I add information to
Are
it.
things to the planning board organized by map and lot number?
Not, I mean, I guess if you go into the paper files, yes. If you go into like what I'm talking about, we have a different numbering system that's similar to the select board.
Should it be map and lot number, because those don't...
We could, I mean, I think we could do that. I do have map and lot tied to those numbers, but yeah. I mean, we could do that because then it maybe would bring it back, like Scott Morash, for instance. We have this application, but you guys, when I first started with the town, had a totally different application. So what I've been doing is like linking our previous, or trying to link our previous meetings, like tonight, if you look at our agenda, there's a link to the previous Morash meeting. But that doesn't help us with the one that was a
The
few
old
years
one,
ago.
like
So if
4
we
years
did map
ago.
and lot, then yeah, that may be more beneficial.
so it sounds, like in Dana's question, I mean, you know, downstairs is awash in paper from many, many, many years.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
The only way to deal with that would be to somehow digitize it all.
That
And,
is certainly possible.
I mean, it sounds
It would
like an
be-
impossibility to me.
It is possible. It would be very time consuming to accomplish, but it certainly could be done.
I think the issue, one of the issues we're trying to solve is that the planning board process, to someone who hasn't been through it before, or might be encountering it for the first time, can seem unfair. When they don't have access to the information that's available, when they go and they drive by a building that's being built, and especially on the lake, and they're, you know, going in a boat, so-and-so's renovating a house, how do they get away with that? It's always, and there's always a reason why, and it's always pretty well documented. But then, you know, they come up and then they're asking for the same thing. They think they're asking for the same thing, but the land use ordinance is that thick. And it's written by lawyers for lawyers for the most part, and it's very difficult to decipher and navigate your way through that. I'm speaking as somebody that had to go through it, you know, thanks to Chip for his guidance and helping me several times, but still, it's painful and it feels unjust. And it feels as though information is kept from people who really just want to know what happened and why it happened, when it's not easily accessible, when it is in those hard files. And also, it's 2026. You know, we have to think about this town in the next 100 years. At some point in time, everything has to become digitized. And the question is, when do we start? And I know it's expensive, and I know Eric and the board do an amazing job of trying to keep our taxes low, and that's the ultimate goal. But at some point in time, you know, 21st century has to hit.
And that's basically been my role on the board is that push of, it is time, as you said, it's 2026, it's time to start digitizing things.
Yeah.
I have been pushing that certainly, and there has been progress. It's just, as you state, it can be expensive and can be slow, which is also things that I don't like, but it's a kind of a necessary evil of this process. It's going to be expensive, it's going to be slow, but I hear everything that, or none of it seems unrealistic to me, or that you guys are asking for anything that can't be done.
And so, I mean, it sounds to me like there are ways that we could move forward with, you know, being able to somehow manipulate the information that's coming in currently a little more easily than...
I have several thoughts in my head, and I will sit down, I will schedule a meeting with Eric of changes that could be made in the short term that would vastly improve your access, the public access, a lot of what I'm hearing that you guys are requesting. I don't think it's the ultimate solution that we will want or that you guys are asking for. I think that one's going to take a little bit of time. But short term, I think there's things that could be done to improve things.
I mean, it sounds to me like there are, you know, two big chunks. There's, you know, now and moving forward and things that we can do. And then there's all the paper downstairs that...
That's, yes,
yeah,
that's another phase.
That's something different. Chip?
I mean, yeah, it's not paper just downstairs. It's in boxes upstairs and all over the place.
Upstairs, downstairs.
I mean, you're gonna have to set a line where you're gonna start from. I mean, it might be just, you know, a few years back when they changed the map and lot number system. And that's a challenge, which is not much fun when you're doing this stuff. But one point I'd like to bring up, because we just ran into that this week over in Wayne, where I also work, is once you start doing these things, you make things more accessible and information more accessible, you're gonna run into fraud. And we ran into a hijacking incident where somebody had gotten a hold of a hearing that the packet was just put together in the last 2 weeks, but they sent a letter claiming that they owned the property, and it was just amazingly done, but it kind of twerked me. I wouldn't open an attachment that was on it, and as we looked deeper into it, somebody did a really nice job, you know, trying, you know, to take over that process. So, I mean, over there, they're talking about redacting, you know, information, addresses and things like that. That gets difficult. So remember, as you move forward to make solutions, you're going to come up with other challenges that are going to come up and make those solutions scratch your head and say, why do we do it? But that's part of growing, that's part of progress. But remember, it's not just a straight road, or, you know, somebody's not going to be able to go, we're going to be able to do this in 5 years. You're going to run into roadblocks like we did over there that are really going to, you know, slow things down.
Yeah. I think the registry of deeds going online was one of the best things that could have ever happened.
That's not a thing, easy thing to get.
That was, I mean, you imagine the scale of that, it was massive, but just whenever you're dealing with any of these types of things, how easy it is to go out and research that now.
A lot of money to make. Well, they try to do that with the septic, system.
Yeah, that's another thing.
And it doesn't work well at all. I mean, everything has its challenges.
I don't know, Jared, if there's a modernization plan or concept, we've got what's the comprehensive plan for the town, which is pretty long-term and robust and somewhat unachievable. Where's the modernization plan?
In the comp plan, you mean? I don't think it was really addressed in the comp plan.
No, I mean, the comp plan is massive in scope. I'm trying to draw a comparison between that and how do we modernize our municipality? And is it worth the cost, I guess, because there is an additional cost.
Do we know if the Maine Municipal Association has been active in this particular area, in advising, helping the towns, giving guidance about digitizing old records or setting up systems for new records? Or we don't know.
I do not know the answer to that. I can certainly ask Eric to reach out to them and see if they have suggestions.
So Sharon, in terms of short-term things that you think might be doable, I mean, generally, what kinds of things are you thinking of? What comes to mind?
I think you could very easily get all new applications coming in accessible on the website, to the board, to the public. You guys could have what I refer to as commenter versions. So when you guys pull out the paper and you're looking at Redline, you could have that on your screen. And you could project it on the projector as you're doing your meetings live. And you could be making edits live. And everyone could be sitting, watching you make those edits live. I think the map and law suggestion is a great idea. I will certainly look at what Angelica is doing and see what that looks like. But I think moving forward with anything new, once those processes are set up, then you guys could absolutely be making everything moving forward much more accessible, much more user-friendly to everyone.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said before, it's accessible to us, but usually it's pulling from different places.
Right, and so the entire board would effectively be working off of one document at all times. And so if Peter wanted to make changes while Jack was making changes to the same document, they both could do that, and everyone sitting in the room could look at those changes. Or they could go home, they could do it,
Yeah.
and it would say, Jack made this suggestion, and then you guys could all look at it on your devices and say, okay, I see Jack made this suggestion, do we want to approve it, do we not want to approve it? Yes or no, up or down?
Yeah. And typically the stuff that we're looking at is not, although we do produce documents, typically what we're looking at is not documents that have been produced here by any of us, it's stuff that's coming from the outside. And those are not things, obviously, that we're going to be editing and so forth. So it's more a matter of access and availability so that we can...
So internally, not for the public view, you guys will be able to set up, or should have already set up, effectively what's called a shared drive. And then, again, figure out the number system, but you could put map lot of this one, planning board received an application, and then you could put a subfolder in there that says everything with this particular application may be using Angelica's system. And then you would all have those PDFs, most likely, accessible to you guys at all times. And you could put a version of that folder available to the public if there are things that may not necessarily need to be in the public eye. Or you could put all of it if it all belongs there.
If it happens that this meeting is in the public eye.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think there's very little that you would...
There shouldn't be anything, right? everything we do should be in the public eye.
Pretty much, I think there are some things that theoretically might not be, but it's pretty rare.
What we're kind of looking for, I think, is so you can go on the town website and just find everything to do with the MORAD, say, without that, or, I don't care. Pick the name.
That's the dream.
I know, yeah.
Right, that's what
Yeah.
we're looking for, is
Yeah.
just to be able to say,
Yeah.
everything to do with this
Yeah.
piece of property.
Yeah.
So if we use the map and lot number, which never changes, right, no matter who owns it.
It does
Seems-
change.
Changes,
Well, okay.
divisions and.
Yeah, it does
Okay, yeah,
change.
but for
It's
the most part,
relatively stable.
it changes less often than the name on the property.
True.
Depending on the property.
So you,
Yeah,
but what we're looking for is to go find everything to do with that piece of property.
and I do think that is something that is realistic. I think that is a
That's what
very
you got going.
long-term.
So we're already
It's
doing
just I
that.
haven't necessarily got into the historical records and uploaded
No,
everything
but
yet.
you've
But
got-
definitely in the last 3 to 4 years, any applications that Chip gets are being uploaded on the website. It's just a matter of, yes, quickly finding them. But what I have made, I think would be helpful. It's still just a document though, it's not, you're not gonna go, and I think it's because our website, which we are shopping for a new one,
Is it?
but our website just cannot necessarily break everything down that way. We have the option to add minutes, we have the option to add agendas, we have the option to add documents. So I can definitely add a document, the document that I use. You know, I don't want to put it up there until everybody has a look at it and says, okay, that's the right information, that's too much information, too little, I want input on that before I post it, but I think it would be helpful.
So that document, can you describe that again, Angela?
It's literally just an Excel document, and so every time we have a meeting, I go on and I put the applicant in there, and I put whether if we made a motion, if it was a public hearing or a public meeting, where, it's pretty quick and simple, but I think what's important about it is with the agenda item number, you can go in and you can see what dates that agenda item number met. So you can go back and look at those minutes and whatnot.
And look at the,
But it also does include like your map and lot and current owner name and stuff like that, so. I can send it out, and I did send it out at one point, probably a couple months back now. I didn't hear anything, so I didn't do anything.
The minutes are included in the folder. That project.
They would be, yeah, I mean, as far as like, if you go and click on like the minute and video portion, there's the agendas and then there's the minutes separate. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, and if we do 3 different applications in one night, so then we get the minutes, which covers all 3, but
Yeah.
then they divide it up, do they get assigned to the,
So each application would have an agenda item number. So of course, it would still all be in the same minutes, but if you go to my document, and you're looking at one of those specific 3 people, then you'd be like, oh, okay, it's in this set of minutes. And then you go to that set of minutes, and of course, look at the application that is in question.
So what I would suggest is to break out those documents, so if you wanted to look up just the Morashes, you wouldn't have to have the entire minutes for the entire meeting for all the other applications you didn't have tonight.
So that's where I'm not sure how I would break that out minutes-wise.
So what I would suggest at this point is I would sit down with Eric, talk to him, see if we can set up a process moving forward and have you guys look at that and see if that's gonna work for you guys short term at least. I definitely want to get to where you guys have been talking about tonight, but I want you guys to understand that that's not going to be something that's going to be accomplishable in what I would consider a timely fashion.
No, we're already working on that.
Yeah. I think with the website that we have right now,
We're limited.
that's, what I have is what I can offer.
Right.
Hopefully the next website.
We need a new vendor at this point. The
Absolutely.
website is aged at this point, so for
Yeah.
the capabilities that you guys are talking about, that's I think.
is there a
most
time
likely.
frame for a new website?
I know Eric just started looking into it, and so that's one of the reasons I want to talk to him to see where he is with that, because I haven't even spoken to him about it.
But I have spoken to him about this specific issue before, So I hope that he would be thinking about when he looks for it.
Right, and that's why I wanted to come and talk to you guys before I talk to Eric, so I could go to Eric and say, these are some of the requirements that we need to make sure a new vendor would have. We need to make sure that we have these capabilities so that we didn't go to a new vendor and then not be able to accomplish your guys' goals.
I would imagine like there's just cloud-based solution providers that handle planning boards and code enforcement. Just a solution we subscribe to, they come in and, I'm sure it's not cheap, but it prevents us from having to maintain it ourselves. And we
Yeah,
just
and-
outsource it.
That's certainly something I think is worth looking into.
Yeah. I mean, all town record, for that matter, I mean, just outsource it.
Yeah, and it's certainly worth looking into.
Any other thoughts on this? So you'll have a conversation with Eric and see where he is?
Yep, and then I'll reach
His
back
process?
out to you
Yeah.
and we'll go from there. I think is probably the best option right now.
Well, thank you very much for spending time with us. We appreciate it. And understand that it's not a quick and easy fix.
I really wish it was. Angelica knows this about me. Nothing ever happens fast enough for me. And this is going to be one of those things.
Since you've been on the board as far as technology goes.
Yes,
that's
yes,
for
I-
sure.
I do tend to light a fire under people when it comes to this sort of stuff, so I will definitely do that here, but
Yeah.
I have an understanding of what your end goal is, and I have an understanding of what that's going to take, and doesn't matter how big the fire is. All right, thank you guys.
Great,
Thank
thanks
you.
so much.
How's Jamie doing? Oh, of course he's.
We have minutes from
Your dad's in Brooklyn.
January 27th.
Oh, thank you.
I just had one really minor suggestion in the third bullet under administrative discussion. It says, it's talking about the grant, and I can apply for a grant through MOCA, et cetera. It says for integration of LDs, blah, blah, blah. I would suggest putting for support for the integration of those LDs. Because they won't actually do it.
Right.
But they'll support our effort to do it.
So to support the integration.
Yeah, yeah. Anything else, anybody? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I did look at it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? John?
Aye.
Okay. Great.
Paul and April, I'll have some of that work done for you that we've been talking about, how to simplify some of these things and some proposals.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay, so I've been giving it some thought, like 7 hours time.
Okay. Yeah, next meeting is the 10th of April, I believe is the date. March, rather. I said April. I said, yeah, 10th of March.
I will not.
That's right, you won't remember that.
We're gonna have 2 meetings in March.
Presumably, at this point, that's the plan, unless we, for some reason that's either impractical or unnecessary, or we'll see, but rather than March 10th is.
When do we have to have the solar thing for the select board?
It's pretty flexible. Usually, if I have stuff to Eric by early April, it's close enough. But
late, the second meeting.
I think that we'll have to do the second meeting in March to make the notice period, so.
I'm just curious.
Okay, thank you all, we're adjourned.
I can go with that one, yeah.
Thank you.
What's this?